All
All
right,
right.
perfect.
I
So
am
now do we
recording.
have to, I sometimes keep thinking, do we need to clap for this? Because I know we're on Zoom, but all right. Anyways, welcome everybody to Creatives Grab Coffee. Today we welcome Maddy O'Shaugnessy, an executive producer at Impossible Studios based out of Toronto. With her past experiences at Ogilvy and Momentum, to name a few, she has shot and
Ogilvy.
produced Ogilvy, sorry. She has shot and produced commercial projects all over the world for brands such as Buick, Dove, Shoppers Drug Mart, and many more. Welcome, Maddy.
Hi. How are you?
We're doing great. You just mentioned before we started recording that you just got back from Uruguay for a commercial project. So how did that go?
Yeah, it went really, really, really well. I had actually shot in Uruguay over the pandemic when we weren't allowed to travel. So that was obviously tricky, like working with the company over there, and like, we were all stuck here in Toronto trying to do the whole thing over Zoom. So this time a project came through. It had to be summer in our spot, and it's obviously not summer in Toronto yet. There was some talk of maybe exploring Vancouver, but it's just so tough with spring weather. The chances of you actually getting a sunny day and like leaves on trees and all that kind of stuff. So we took it as an opportunity to head down to Uruguay, and like the price difference was about the same to get the same stuff done. So it worked out really well. We got to meet everyone in person that we'd worked with over Zoom last time. And Uruguay is actually known for their steak. So they do like really great beef
Okay.
meals. So we like basically went to Uruguay for a week. We shot for a day and we ate a bunch of steak that was like cooked on like open fires. It was amazing.
Wow. So you only went down for just one day
One
shoot?
week. 1 week.
Oh, 1 week. Oh, okay. Because you
One
said
week. Oh
one day.
gosh.
Yeah, one.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I heard one
One
day
day
too. That was
shoot.
like
one
one day of
day. One day
travel,
for
one
the
day of
shoot.
shooting.
Yeah. No, no. The travel's way too long to do it just for one day. It's like you fly out of Toronto. Copa Airlines was fantastic. I will highly recommend. But you fly out of Toronto to Panama City is kind of like the hub that everyone flies into and out of. And that flight's about 6.5 hours. And then you fly from Panama City to Uruguay, which is like another 7-ish hours. So you're looking at like a 14, 15 hour travel day. It's not like a, you know, hop on, get there right away, no big deal. Like, we'll tech scout this afternoon once I'm there. Like, no, no, it is a travel day.
I can't believe it's that far away. It doesn't feel like it should take 15 hours to get there. That's almost a full
No,
day.
I
You just
know,
have to
it's
go down
wild.
too.
I know. Just directly down. The nice thing is, though, for anyone who doesn't travel too, they're also on almost the same time zone as us. So, like, I've also done shoots in like Spain or like Australia or something. Australia is the hardest one. The time zone is just the exact opposite. So, like, that's really annoying because you have to work until like 5 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, Uruguay's really, they're only 1 hour I think ahead of us. I always get it backwards, but I think they're like, yeah, 1 hour ahead of us. So I didn't like miss any emails or have to be like, sorry, I'm in another time zone, like good luck.
Yeah, I have
Which
a
was
friend
nice.
down in Australia, and it's always so hard to schedule calls with them because they're plus 12 hours. No, they're plus 14 hours, something like that. So
It was
it's
15.
when
I think it
it's
was 15 or
15
so.
hours. So it's like when it's daytime here, it's nighttime there. So
Yeah,
it's tricky.
it's wild. They wake up at like 5, like they start work at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. our time, depending on how early they wake up. So you're just like, any feedback you get from clients all day, you're like, well, I'll let you know what they say at 6 p.m. Thank you. But I did a shoot once where the production company was in Australia. The client was in the UK and we were in Toronto. So there was not a single hour of the day where we were all working at the same time. That,
No.
that
Someone's
one
always
was
sleeping.
that one was a poor decision.
How does that team come together? I mean,
Through
whenever,
emails.
well,
Through
I mean,
emails.
obviously
That's
through
that's
emails,
about
but
it.
I mean, like in terms of like here in Toronto, a lot of us work with people closely within our own networks, maybe some people in other parts of the country, but never really in such taking little pieces of the whole project and like having it from all over the world. That you only usually hear that for big budget studio movies or something like that, you know, where they have teams all over the world. Like how does one manage all that?
So I before I switched over to working at Impossible, the last account I was on at an agency was a global account. It was a global client. So they actually required, like when we did a shoot, like I had to explore directors all over the world. So some of those directors would be word of mouth, you know, so and so had worked with so and so before, or so and so lived in South America before, and this is who they worked with, and that kind of stuff. But my dirty little secret that, you know, I'm sure I probably shouldn't be saying, but whatever. A lot of the time, like I'll end up Googling like production companies in other countries, and then I'll just do like a vetting call with them. So I'll call them and I make sure that, like, you know, obviously their director's reels will somewhat speak for the work that they're capable of doing, but then, like, you know, do you use the same budgeting system as us? You know, can you take us through a pre-production meeting? Do you have access to this camera and this gear and whatever? And like, if they can answer those questions, they obviously know what they're talking about. So for the most part, yeah, like ideally word of mouth. And then occasionally when I'm in a real situation, it ends up, you know, I'll find people on Google or Instagram as actually also a big one. And then I'll just have a vetting call with them.
Look, as
I'm
long as you
really
do a
curious
vetting,
what you're. Sorry, I was gonna say I'm really curious to see exactly what kind of vetting questions you ask. That's really interesting. Like you're mentioning running them through, like run me through your pre-production meeting. I was like, oh, okay. If someone asked me that, I'd be like, I really have to think about
Right?
it.
but see, that's good, and it's very important to be able to vet the talent that you're going to bring on for your projects. And it doesn't really matter necessarily where you find them. You know, obviously Google, Instagram is not always the most you know, the most how do you say, ideal way. You obviously want to get word of mouth from people and recommendations that have worked with these people before, but sometimes you just have to do it. You have to hustle, you have to find talent in certain ways, and if you can vet them and they seem like they will be really good for the project, then what's the risk in working with them, right?
Exactly. You have to start somewhere with every person you ever work with. It's not like you can always have worked with everyone in the past. There's always going to be new people. And like, especially when it comes to like directors and production companies, before we award the job, we go through a whole treatment process. So they have to do an entire treatment with us. There's, you know, they take us through everything. We vet all of their estimates and, you know, everything we're going to go through. So it's not like, you know, we're like, hey, I saw you online. You look great. Let's do this job. Here's $500,000. It's like, no, we're going to, you know, go through this really strict process. You're going to answer all of our questions. You're going to put together a treatment of exactly how you're going to shoot our commercial, all this kind of stuff. We have multiple calls, all this stuff. And then once everyone's comfortable, then we move forward. So I think it'd be a little scarier if we were just willy-nilly handing out money and signing off on things before we really went through the process. But
Well, I can imagine because you guys are also dealing with like $500,000, $1 million budgets. So yeah, you do need to know the ABCs of everything at that point.
oh yeah, for sure. And like, it is like, obviously, like that when you look at the total budget altogether, it seems like such a huge number. But then once you actually like siphon it out to all the different people that need it and all the different things you're going to be doing and how many hours everyone's working on the project, it's crazy how fast all that money gets eaten up. And like, you know, there's never enough money to go around. It doesn't matter if your project is $100,000 or $1 million. The creative always reflects that. And then you end up being like, so I think we need more money.
Wow. You mentioned in your vetting process, there are certain questions you typically ask. What are some of the key things that you look for when you're vetting talent that automatically is a surefire sign that this is someone that we can work with?
So when we go into the project, like I'll do a pre-call with them and I'll ask them more production related questions. That's more for like whether or not their production company can, you know, get us exactly what we need. But then we'll do a call with the creatives and the director, and the creatives will, you know, look for certain things from that director as well and kind of make sure they're saying the right things. So on the production end of things, you know, it's dependent a lot on the job. You know, like I'm not going to ask whether or not you have a drone person that you work with if we're not using a drone in the shoot. But if we are, I'm going to make sure that, you know,
It's
you've
more
done
technical.
drone stuff before.
It's more technical,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. Like, you know, chances are, like, for the most part, you know, you can use any camera, but for the most part, you know, we're looking at an Alexa, we're looking at, you know, some anamorphics or Cook lenses or something like that. So like, I want to make sure that you have access to those kind of things. And then I want to make sure when I go through your budget that I'm seeing all the right stuff. So one of the really interesting things that I've found working all over the world is that the budgeting is so similar. So we use something at Impossible called a 0.0 budget. The other one that's used more in the US, but it's the exact same thing, is called hot budgets. And almost no matter where I've gone in the world, it's the same budget. So it's the same line items in the same spots. They do the exact same thing. So if I see that budget, I usually am like, okay, you've done this before. You know what you're talking about. I can see all the lines I need to see. This is great. So it's a process of, you know, do they have access to the kind of equipment or people that I think we'll need? Do they understand how to put together a budget? And then when we get into the creative side of things, it's more, what does the director understand? So one of the things that we see a lot that I actually will caution like some of our directors against is so many directors want to put like the 60-second spot on their reel. They want to put the 2 minutes of, you know, great work that they've done on their reel. But at the end of the day, most commercials these days are 15 seconds. Like almost 30 seconds are almost becoming rare. So many creative teams want to understand, can you actually put together a commercial in 15 seconds? It's so great that you can do a 2-minute spot, but can you do a 15? Can you tell an entire story in 15 seconds? Because that's a huge part of it. And, you know, almost every time, I don't think I've ever gotten a 15-second script where I've been like, yeah, this is actually 15 seconds. This is going to fit perfectly. Wow, you guys did it. So it's always great when you hear like the director come on and they're like, look, I timed it out. This is sitting at 25 seconds. So, you know, we're going to have to talk about how we actually shoot this, if there's anything we can speed up, like, you know, what are you willing to lose on the cutting floor? And if we can have those conversations beforehand, it just makes the editing process so much easier. So understanding 15-second cuts, understanding, you know, whatever genre we're in, they should know that. So like, do you understand how to shoot comedy? Do you understand how to shoot beauty? Do you understand how to shoot a montage anthem? Like, see, you see those things on their reel, but when you actually talk to them, like, you know, do they talk about how that's going to happen? So little things like that is kind of what we vet with directors. So it's not necessarily an exact specific list of questions that I have on my computer, but it's very job based. Do you understand what we're doing? Because I figure hopefully at this point in my career, I understand what we're doing. So if they can answer my questions, then, you know, they obviously know what they're talking about.
Yeah, we found over the years that reels are never fully indicative of the person's actual capabilities. We used to, when we first got into the industry, we thought, oh, wow, we have to get a killer reel together. Oh, this person's reel is amazing. We think he'll do a great job. There was one case where we hired this one DP who had an amazing reel, very narrative based work, creative shots, really cool looking shots, great storytelling. But then when we put him for a corporate shoot, we thought a corporate shoot would be very easy for him at that point. And we realized, and when we looked at the footage after, we realized, oh no, this wasn't the right hire. We should have done a little bit more of a vetting process. So ever since then, now we look at very specific projects according to the tasks and roles that we're hiring. I think she froze, by the way. I just, yeah, I knew it. Yeah. I wanted to finish the point just so we have a clean cut.
I don't know if I should cut this. It's pretty funny with you laughing.
I just wanted to get a clean sound bite.
Maddy, I told you. You didn't update your Zoom client. It was bound to happen.
Updated. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It froze on you listening very intently, so I finished the sound bite before you mentioning.
And honestly, it's flowing so well. I'm debating whether I should cut this part out or not.
No, don't cut this. Don't cut this. This is staying in. This is golden. What was the last bit that you heard from me, by the way?
The literal last word I heard was, "Oh wow," and then it cut.
Amazing. Okay, just to kind of give you a quick summary, what we were mentioning was vetting talent is very key, and people's reels are never fully indicative of what their capabilities are. We used to hire and judge people based on their reels. And there was one situation where we hired a DP who was a very creative shooter, had great narrative work that he was presenting. And we thought a corporate shoot should be no big deal for him, right?
That was on us, because if they mainly do narrative work, what made us think that they could do corporate work? Because they are two different. They are two different things, apples and, you know.
This was early. This was back in 2015. We were maybe a year or so in the industry. And then when we saw the footage afterwards, we realized, oh no, they're not that experienced in corporate. Okay, from now on, we have to ask for people specific projects that they have done similar to the job that we're hiring, so that we know that they're actually capable of doing it and we can trust them to do a good job. So vetting is so important in this process. And I feel sometimes people don't do enough of that. I've seen many projects where you could tell that the talent was never vetted and they just threw it together really quickly. And you know, you're very experienced that where if you can put it all together really quickly, if you're experienced, you can get all that stuff done in shorter time periods.
The one thing that like always is a little iffy about someone's reel is like technically it's their best work. Like that is the best of the best. But the other piece of that is, are they consistent in that best work? And you can't always see that from their reel. Like they may have 5 amazing spots on their reel, but then they've got 20 that were like pure garbage that they won't show anyone. So you never know if it's like, are they consistent or is it hit and miss and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. And you also never know like how involved they were within that project. Cause it's like, there's in like, you know, when you create a video, it's not just one person being a dictator and just saying, this is my vision, this is what we're doing. There's so many different voices that are putting their input in. And like, again, behind every video, there's like the work of dozens of people that were involved within that project. So you never know, like, okay, was it fully their vision, or like what was their input, what wasn't, what was demanded, what was done. So that's another thing you have to kind of figure out. And I can't even imagine how tricky it must be on your end, because it's like, like the reel is someone's best work. You don't know like how many duds they had maybe before they got that one cool one. So referrals is always like your key point. But if you're not going based on referrals, like, ooh, I'd be stressing. I'd be worried up until like that project is locked in.
Especially when you're hiring a director or even a DP to put together the vision for a $500,000 project where everyone else can do an amazing job in their role. But if the director was, if the DP accidentally lit everything too intensely, then everything else, all that work is just gone for nothing at that point.
But then I guess if you are at that level, you are pretty much, you don't get to that level, I guess, by being bad, you know, you don't make it to that stage. So I think by that, but then I guess at that point, it's kind of like, it's like being, I don't know, maybe at the bottom of like a doctor's class, you know, it's like, it's still pretty good place to be. Like, you might be the worst doctor, but still a doctor, right?
The one with the lowest score in med school is still a doctor at the end of the day.
Like the risk is so much greater, I find, on smaller budget shoots, because when we're doing the larger budget shoots, like we're working with people that, you know, they're the best of the best because we can give them the money that they require to do the shoot. But in smaller budget things, you know, you're taking a little bit more of a risk already because it's someone who's willing to do it for a smaller budget. So it's a little bit more risky on smaller budget things. On the larger budget things, I think I've always had it. Like it always works out. Everyone knows what they're doing and it's all good. The smaller budget ones though are trickier.
Yeah. You're saying we have to charge more to seem more trustworthy. There's a saying to that as well. I mean, if there have been times where Dario and I have put out talent calls for videographers or editors, and a lot of the time we found ourselves looking at the budgets of people who are doing, for example, 800 to 1,500 day rates or something like that, because we know that is usually the standard for people who know what they're doing. If someone is saying, "Oh, I can shoot your entire commercial for $150," then
that's a red flag.
Don't do it.
Like that's a red flag right there. Like, it doesn't cost that much.
That little, you mean?
No.
Or that little.
150. I'll do it for 50.
Oh God. No, definitely not worth it. Like you absolutely get what you pay for it, which is, it is what it is. I don't think anyone's like, oh, we don't have to pay that much. Like, it's great. It still works out just as good. You can see the difference in like, the digital spots people put out and then like the Super Bowl spots. Like, they're just not the same. The other thing I always look for on DP's reels, because I've been burned on smaller budget things with this, if all of the spots on their reel are shot outside, red flag. It's so much
Oh,
easier to
interesting.
see
Yeah.
outside
They
than it
don't know
is
how
to
to use
light a
lighting.
reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know how, yeah, because it means they don't know how to use lighting if they're not showing any indoor stuff. Interesting.
Exactly. So little things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, if you need someone though who's really good with just outdoor type projects, okay, maybe. But if
Right,
it's a
yeah.
studio shoot, then you have to show examples of how you incorporated a studio system with the lighting and everything. Another one for example is specifically green screen projects. Those are so not
They're a
niched
whole different
necessarily.
world of lighting.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
so specific to be able to light your subject away from lighting the green screen and like understanding how to separate them and how to make sure like it works out in the VFX in the end. And if it's not your niche, it is not your niche.
Yeah, don't say you can do green screen if you've done it once or twice, especially if
Or
it's
like,
something very massive. You need full on green screen studios in order to do something, especially if you need to do a full body type thing. Like occasionally Dario and I get projects where it's like having like corporate clients who need to be, maybe just like the waist up, and then we can get away with bringing our own green screen for those types of projects. But if it's something more complicated and like a whole other ball game, where it has to be with other VFX that plays into it, then yeah, it there needs to be more that goes into it.
oh, for sure. It's a lot.
Yeah. What are some other things that you've learned over the years by doing all of these international type projects? Like, what is like something that you've learned that you like a key tip that you always hold with you for future projects?
One of the things that I always do, especially if I'm working with a team that I haven't worked with a bunch before, especially creatives, is, they have their website, they have their reel, they have their Instagram. That's great. I'll go on Vimeo and search them on Vimeo, because so many creatives keep like all of their spots on Vimeo, or like, the post-production companies will tag them on Vimeo in spots. And then I can see any spots that they maybe haven't chosen to post on their reel or on their website, just to get a better sense of like, what other kind of stuff are they doing? So I will always go search people on Vimeo. Or one of the things I've done, speaking of Vimeo, just on like the flip side of that, is I've also gone into jobs where the creative team is using, certain references for something, or like, this is the spot we really like. We want to do something similar to this, or the client may have a reference for the type of spot they want it to be. I'll also go on Vimeo and I'll search that spot to see if I can figure out who directed the original. And depending on our budget, depending on, whether or not they're repped in Canada or not, we can always look at shooting with that same director if they're using that as the reference anyways. So that's sometimes also how I've found some of my international directors, is based off the references the creative team have sent over.
Oh wow.
So,
Like, how do you have that conversation? We like that reference video you sent over. We're gonna work with those guys instead.
Yeah, we can do that as a production company as well, because any director that is, not based in Canada, if they're not repped in Canada by someone else, we can do that with our production company. So I did it a lot as an agency producer, and I would work abroad with their production companies. And then now as an executive producer, I can bring those same directors to Canada, or I can go to whatever country they're in too, but I can bring those directors to Canada and shoot with them here. So it literally gives the creatives the exact spot they want, because it's their reference. We're working with the same team. So it works out pretty well.
You mentioned how the 30-second earlier, you mentioned the 30-second spot is kind of disappearing, and now it's mostly maybe like the 1-2 minute one plus the 15-second version. I'm wondering also how important is the social media version becoming? Like by that I mean like the 9:16 aspect ratio version, because a lot of ads you'll still see them in regular 16:9, but are you guys now focusing more on the 9:16 version as well? Are you shooting that? Are you framing shots specifically for that type of aspect ratio alongside the actual regular shots?
So it totally depends on the complete media buy. TV is still number one. So people will always focus on the TV spot the most. 30-second spots are becoming less and less of a thing. 15-second spots and 10-second bumpers are usually what we're seeing the most for TV these days. So the 15 and the 10-second, 16:9 for TV, those are still hero. But if you don't have that media buy, if it is just a digital spot, most online platforms aren't 16:9 anymore. So 16:9 kind of becomes, it's your YouTube spot. It's, your video on demand spot if someone's, watching some sort of platform where an ad plays before. But for the most part, it's paid Instagram, paid Facebook, and paid TikTok now is becoming a thing. So, and the really, really tricky thing with that is it's not only just 9:16 you have to worry about, but also where the usable media space is. So even though you're doing a 9:16, you have to look at, on Instagram, there's that little bar at the bottom where you can type something in, and there's the X on the top with your little name. So you can't put anything under those things. Like, they're on the edge anyways. It's pretty easy. TikTok is a whole other thing. So TikTok has the entire text blurb at the bottom, and then they have the name at the top, and then they have the icons all down the side. So the usable space is in 9:16 is like this little blob right here.
Yeah.
One by one,
So,
basically.
yeah, you're basically back to one by one. So what we're doing a lot of now for digital spots is, whereas before we could get away with shooting on a less expensive, smaller camera, it's digital, we save money that way. Now we're back to shooting it, on the big, like, we're shooting a digital spot on a 4K red camera because we have to shoot this wide, and then we're going to cut it down, and we're going to cut it down, and we're going to cut it down. So it becomes all these little tinier spots. And what we do is we just, we'll have VTR on the day, and we'll put up bars where the 9:16 is. So we can see what the 16:9 looks like, but we can understand how big the 9:16 is, just to make sure that we're shooting far enough away and we can fit it all in. But yeah, so if your TV spot is still there, 16:9 is your go-to. If you're just doing digital, 16:9, 4 or 5 or 1:1, and then 9:16 are kind of all evenly weighted. They want all of them the same, and you have to pay attention to all of them equally.
Yeah, I noticed as soon as we started posting highlight clips of the show on Instagram Reels and TikTok, that's when I realized how little space we actually had for our stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, so
TikTok
we can't
is
use
nothing.
the full side, we can't use the bottom, the top is like cropped out, and it was like, oh my god, this is so messy. And then the thing that really irritates me is that the 9:16 on TikTok is slightly different from the 9:16 on Instagram Reels.
Always.
It's
It is.
off. It's not the same. It's not the
so
same at all.
frustrating.
And I don't
It's like
understand the
millimeters.
logic behind that. Don't they just copy each other anyways?
So it's so frustrating because if you look at the TikTok guidelines, it does say it's 9:16, but when you actually look at the spot on TikTok, because especially with iPhones, the screen now like goes up around the camera at the top.
Yeah.
It's actually slightly longer, and they don't tell you that in the specs. So I've had to like fully redo TikTok spots before because it's not the same. So you can't, whereas like Facebook and Instagram are very similar and integrated, like a 4:5 on Instagram and a 4:5 on Facebook, easy peasy, they swap back and forth, good to go. When you get into the 9:16s for Instagram versus TikTok, it's two separate deliverables. It's not the same thing.
It's because they're the same company. Facebook and Instagram are the same company, so they're going to make it interchangeable and malleable between their platforms for the content. Whereas TikTok is the new player in town, and they're messing things up for everybody.
They're playing by their own rules. TikTok's been a really, really interesting one to watch come into the industry because, you know, where Facebook and Instagram are known for being like, I mean, at this point, Facebook is what all of our parents are on to post crazy news articles. But you know, yeah, exactly.
Conspiracy Central, that's Facebook now.
Yeah, it is.
Facebook, oh Lord. But Facebook and Instagram themselves are known for being fairly curated. So a lot of ads, you know, some ads will always be ads and they'll always stand out, but there's a lot more stuff on Facebook and Instagram that you can do that are like high quality, that don't seem out of place. So we can use stuff from our actual ads on Facebook and Instagram that don't seem, you know, too crazy. But then when you're going through TikTok is not a platform that is like curated or, you know, meant for high quality. So it's been a really tricky thing. You know, we've spent years and years and years explaining to clients, like, we can't just shoot this with an iPhone, like it's not going to look as good. And then TikTok came out and now we're like, we should probably shoot this with an iPhone. Like it's just going to perform better if we do. So, you know, it's tough. TikTok is kind of its whole other thing. And I don't know if anyone's fully cracked the code of ads performing well on TikTok yet.
It's still new. The platform is still so new that it's hard for people to kind of figure this out, because I mean, Instagram, when it came out, people were just posting photos constantly. Not everyone knew how to market it or how to put advertisements on there. And
we
TikTok
were all
now
putting on a filter, putting on a weird border around it. We were like, oh my God,
exactly. Exactly. And now TikTok has really taken the organic feel to content very literally, in terms of how it'll perform with audiences, because that's typically what people look for. People went to Instagram before because people saw a little bit more of the authentic side a little bit in the beginning, and then it became
it's because Facebook was becoming too convoluted, so it was just a nice way to just see people's photos or whatever. Facebook was just getting a little too messy at that point.
It was very messy, and Instagram was a great platform for that. But then people realized very quickly that it was always going to be very much people showing only what they wanted to show, very specific. It was almost like a portfolio based platform for a lot of people, and that's now essentially what it's become. And people were looking for some kind of content platform that could be a little bit more authentic. Snapchat was kind of a little bit of that in the beginning, and so was, I think, Vine back in the day.
TikTok is just a longer Vine. That's all it is.
It's just Vine.
Yeah, it's just Vine. It's nothing.
TikTok is Vine, but longer. Yeah.
But longer. Way longer. Like their limits are like 10 minutes now.
Yeah, that's wild.
God.
You can post up to like a 10-minute video. I like that it's a little longer, because on Instagram Reels it's only up to a minute. So I'm always struggling to like shorten the highlight clips of this show. I gotta like trim them down and trim them
very
it's a process. Whereas like on TikTok you just do up to 10 minutes. I don't know why they don't do that
in 7 seconds or 15 seconds.
Yeah. Do you feel though, because you're starting to create content for the TikTok platform more so, are you guys considering shooting less with the higher end cameras of, you know, the Aries and the Alexas to kind of get that more authentic feel with the content, or is it still the standard now?
On our end, what we've kind of noticed works probably the best is, you know, we still do our regular shoot. We still shoot on the higher end cameras because it works best for TV, and then also, you know, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. It looks really nice on the curated reel. But then for TikTok, what we're doing is we're usually bringing out one person specifically to shoot TikTok content, because your standard spots don't work as well on TikTok for two reasons. The first one being 7 seconds is the magic number. You want to have a 7-second spot. So if you're doing a 15-second spot, as much as you have 10 minutes on TikTok, 7 seconds performs the best. So what kind of content can we do in 7 seconds? We should think about that. The other thing being, one thing that really draws people to your content is using new and upcoming, but also popular audio sounds. So if you're just putting your regular spot in, it's not necessarily going to get, obviously you can pay for the ad space, but if you want to grow that more organically, it's not going to get pushed to people's For You page if you're not going with specific trends that are already on TikTok. So we would actually bring someone out to film separate content. The other really, really tricky part of it is, you know, usually the process is, okay, the client briefs a creative team on, you know, what they want to do, or like the client works with the strategy team to brief the creative team on what they want to do. The creative team writes some scripts. They go back to client. There's maybe 3 rounds of revisions. You know, they go back and forth. They finally have a script. Then it goes to production. Then we assign a director, and then we do treatments, and then we do pre-production, and then we shoot, and then we spend another month editing, and then it goes to traffic, and then it goes out. So, you know, end to end, you're looking at months and months and months of work. And if you were to start that brief with, so there's this viral video on TikTok that we really want to do something for, and then you're putting it out, like, let's say best case scenario, 3 months later, you're not. Like, great job, you didn't do it.
Yeah, you gotta be quick. You gotta churn out content like right away, like today, and tomorrow another one.
So fast. So what we've been doing that we find works a little bit better is basically we go to the shoot day knowing we want to do TikTok content and maybe having some ideas, but we don't have a signed off script for TikTok. So like the spot is signed off on, you know, we've done the casting, we've done the locations, all based on, you know, your bigger commercial spot or your Instagram or Facebook or whatever. The day of, the morning of, we sit down and we go through some of the things that are just starting to be viral right now. Like, what are those ones that are like just starting to hit that we think could work? We'll film stuff to go with that on the day, and then we edit it out and send it out a week later, because a week is maybe an okay timeline, whereas 3 months just isn't. So, you know, it's a lot less being prepared and a little more rolling with the punches, which is the exact opposite we do for everything else. But it tends to work a little bit better, and you can still kind of get on some of those trends if you're willing to, you know, roll with it a little bit. I've also done some stuff for some clients where we knew they wanted to do like a few different TikTok videos. We had some ideas of some stuff they liked, but knew that we probably wouldn't hit the trend. We just casted 2 people just for the TikTok stuff. And then we just spent a whole day filming all sorts of different TikTok videos based on different TikTok trends. And then we presented, you know, 15 different TikTok videos to the client. They picked the 4 or 5 that they liked. So that way it's like, you're not necessarily signing off on, you know, the script in advance, you're almost signing it off on it in the end. And we just kind of did okay, you know, our shoot day, well, here's the cost for the shoot day. It'll get you automatically 3 TikTok videos are included in this. Anything above and beyond that, you know, it's $500 for us to deliver the extra TikTok videos. So that way it's kind of like buffet style, pick and choose what you want.
The reason for that is because with internet trends, you can never really pre-production it that well that it will actually turn out exactly what you're thinking. Because with all these trends, you know, there's these different dances, there's these different lip sync type songs, and sometimes you just have to do it and see if it works or it doesn't work. It either does or it doesn't. There's no, oh, it's not bad, you know, maybe it's a little bit okay, we could kind of use it. But that's a very good strategy where you guys came up with putting together 10 to 15 different TikToks to see what kind of works, see what works with the brand that you're working with, and then they can choose which ones will be executed online. And you have to do it quick. We found that no matter at what stage in your career you are, whether you're doing $10,000 projects, $100,000 projects, or $1 million projects, you have to be so nimble, and you have to be able to adapt to what it is. And TikTok has really forced even the big players such as your studio to adapt to these new changes that are happening.
Oh, for sure. It's every new platform that comes out, we change every time. Like, could you imagine working on ads back in the day when they did like $1 million TV spot a year and then called it a day? They were like, great, good job, everyone. We did it.
All right, we're good.
Yeah. And now we're doing like, you know, a TV spot every quarter, but then also social content every quarter, if not more. Most brands have something called like always on social, which means they post something every week to their social account, whether that be, you know, some stock footage with some text on it, or some old spots, or, you know, an image from the store or whatever, if they're a brand that has a store. They post something every week now, and they have to. And like, we have to keep up with that. So I would like to go back to the day where it was just one big giant commercial a year, but it's not going to happen. I think it's only going to get more and more spread out, especially now that the metaverse is becoming a thing. I am so interested in that.
Are you guys getting involved with Facebook's metaverse? Like, is there any project currently in the works?
To an extent, we haven't fully shot anything for it yet, so we're still figuring stuff out. But we do have like a VR team and all that kind of stuff. So we do have some stuff we're like doing tests for different clients and stuff like that, just because it'll be interesting. I have to say I was a little bit skeptical until I got a VR system, and now I'm like, wow, I will just be in this for the rest of my life. It's so cool.
I found that I got dizzy after being in some of those VR sets after a while. I don't know.
Really? I always find I'm always like, okay, like I'll play whatever game or do whatever, and then I'll go to take the headset off, and I'm like, I expect just like the text to disappear, but I'm obviously still in, you know, the Mayan village that it's got me in the game. And then I take my headset, I'm like, all right, I'm in my own living room. What a letdown.
Yeah, the whole thing, it just cracks me up how we went from, oh, don't stay too close to the TV, to now we just have it like right in
right to the eyes.
It will be on your face now.
The whole Facebook metaverse thing though, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a dud. Like the barriers to entry are just too high for it. Like, I mean, it's not like you gotta get the headset and then you gotta put it on, and then are you really gonna wear that the whole time? I don't know. Like they've had,
I like that your barriers.
There's been like VR
you gotta put it on. All right.
I don't know. Like there's been like VR headsets for a while now. There's a lot of games that are out on it. Like I still haven't seen it gone viral.
Yeah, because we tried the 360 thing when it was just coming out.
360
everybody thought
different.
360.
Kyrill, 360 is different.
I know, but
it's different from VR. Like, but I think AR might be like the next big thing. VR, I think it's still
building for sure. I think we're not there yet. I think the big like thing for me was over Christmas this last year. We brought our VR set home when we went home for Christmas to like our parents and stuff. My parents bought a VR set the next week. They loved it so much. And I feel like if like 60-year-olds are that into it.
How much was it? How much was a headset?
I think it's like $400. So you do have to be able to afford the $400 headset, but as the technology increases and that cost starts to come down, so they're coming out with things now too where you can do the VR, but it's actually your phone. Like, so it's like just a case that like holds your phone and the whole thing works. So I think once we get to the stage where it's literally just your phone and you can have just a strap that's like $20, I think that's when it's really gonna kick off.
But the thing is, they've had that thing for a while, because they first introduced that with the 360 video back in the day. So one thing we learned when we were first getting into it, we thought 360 video would be also the next big thing. Everyone did. Remember 2016? You saw someone with a 360 rig at every event possible.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing it, and we were doing it. We tried it with a few clients, and yeah, it is cheaper to get that mask and the phone. But the funny thing is, it's hard enough to get people to watch your content these days anyway. To add more steps for them to do it, that is the challenge. That is what we learned. And
I think now that Facebook is in and like it's a whole thing, and now that
I'll wait till Apple gets into it. When Apple
gets into it, like, because Facebook is like we said before, Facebook is already for old people anyways. Like the young kids are already onto the new stuff. So I don't know. They're not really a trendsetter. Yeah, it's not a trendsetter anymore. It's
definitely still growing. Like, I think you're right. Like, it's not there yet. Like, you're not going to get nearly enough views if you're doing VR stuff yet, unless you're like the right client. but I think it will get
It's
there.
niche, too niche at the moment. It's
Okay,
very
we'll make
niche.
a bet right now, and we'll touch base in 10 years, and we'll see.
Like I'm sure VR will take off in the future for sure.
It will.
But
It will.
I don't think Facebook's gonna be the one that.
Not
Hey, it was
Facebook,
thanks
though.
to them. It went like
No.
No.
No,
I just
no.
think it's getting more talked about now because
Yeah.
Facebook is in. So like it's so much word of mouth. Like Facebook is a big company. Everyone, all of our parents are on Facebook. They know Facebook. So like the more people start to find out about stuff and the different stuff that exists, it's just going to keep growing. And I think Facebook is like a step in that.
The only thing that also confirms what Dario and I are saying is that the second they mentioned the metaverse, their whole market share just plummeted. So
It
I don't
wasn't
know. Like, I mean,
anything
numbers
special.
don't lie.
Listen, the thing about the metaverse that cracked me up was that it wasn't anything special. Like, for example, in crypto, like that's been a thing for like over a year now. There's Mana, there's the Decentraland, there's the other one, I don't know, the other one's too shit to mention. There's Sandbox and Decentraland that have been doing a lot of stuff in the metaverse. Plus, I mean, there's been other metaverses before, right? Like there's the biggest one is Minecraft. That's the biggest metaverse out there. They were like touting it like it's like, oh my God, guys, we came up with a brilliant idea. It's totally new. It's called the metaverse. It's like, yeah, that's been around for a while, buddy.
It's all still really complicated. And I think too many words, like people are like, I don't even know what that is. How would I even figure that out? But I think slowly over time, and like as the next generation comes up, because they're more used to it, because it makes more sense to them, I think we will start to see a little bit of a shift.
It won't be our generation, at least. That's what I think. I don't think it'll be our generation. We'll be the old people that our
I think
kids
we'll
are
be
giving...
like our parents in the metaverse being like, how do I log on to the Facebook?
Or the meta.
Yeah.
No, you know what? It'll be the Apple. I'm still calling it. It'll be Apple.
Listen,
not
I want those Apple AR glasses that they've been teasing us with for the last 10 years. Like that, AR for sure is gonna be like cool as hell. That I can get behind easily, and it's pretty easy to implement. Someone just needs to figure out like some type of glasses for it, and it'll work. I remember like 10 years ago, Google came up with something like that. It was like these like
the Google glasses. I remember
Google glasses.
Those are cool. Those are really cool.
I keep getting ads right now for Ray-Bans that have a little camera in them, so they like film your day if you're like an influencer or whatever. I'm like, well,
wasn't that like the Snapchat thing? Wasn't there like a Snapchat thing where like you could just record your snaps? This was like a while ago. No, I remember this.
I don't know.
There have been ideas like this for a while. There was that YouTube creator, Casey Neistat, who had this like other app idea. I think it was called Beam or something, where he like puts the phone there and just records his day. Very similar to that. So
the
that's
US
like
government loved him for that, by the way.
Oh, they did. They bought him out very quickly.
Like I would just feel bad if I was recording my whole day, because like it's so boring. It's just like me sitting at a computer. Like, you're welcome. This is how fun I am.
You know what you said earlier that I had was thinking was funny was that you mentioned that 7 seconds is the magic number. And I was thinking, how funny is it that we've gone from like 1 minute is great to 30 seconds is great to 15 to 7. And I was thinking we're gonna go down to 1 second. Just a photo. Just post a photo. That's all we need.
Yeah, that's it. But we're lucking out on the video side for whatever reason on social media. Short video content does better than stills.
Oh yeah.
So it performs better.
When? 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah, you get 2 seconds. Like
just do GIFs, all right. Let's just do GIFs already. We know where
GIFs
this is
are
going.
Great. GIFs are great. Cinemagraphs, perfect. Like they just want like
yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about those.
Yeah. A ton of cinemagraphs, just all those requests. Like those perform actually better than still. So that'll be what we'll end up doing for the next 10 years.
People want to see movement when they're scrolling. When you're scrolling, the thing that will catch your eye is not so much images anymore. It's now if you see movement, right? So that's maybe like one of the first things that will catch people's attention. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. Vine died for some reason, but we're going back to that format according to you with the 7 seconds. So it's like, just bring Vine back.
We're going back to Vine. And then anything with a human face or anything with like a cute dog, that is like tops. So any
All our-
Everyone wants to
really
see
quick
landscapes.
video of a human face with a dog, you've cracked the code.
Kyrill, all of our videos from now on just have to have a human face and a dog in the corner, just just to increase our metrics.
Yeah, literally just in the corner.
Just in the
Podcast face.
corner. Oh, we just do like in Fight Club, we just flash it for like half a second.
Yes. Yes.
Dog face.
Dog face. Just like that. You
That's
still for
exactly-
creators grab coffee.
Yeah.
How funny would that be
Marketing.
though if we just start throwing like subliminal messages in our videos and our clients are like, wow, I love it. I don't know why, but I really love this.
Adopt the dog today.
Oh my
It's
god.
perfect.
We're now roughly coming up to the 1 hour mark already.
Wow.
It's been honestly a great conversation. We don't want to take too much more of your time, but what you mentioned, you've shot and produced projects all over the world at this point. So like, what would you say is your favorite place that you've been able to visit as a result of that?
I mean, Uruguay was the latest one, so that one's like fresh on my mind. I absolutely loved it. Sometimes when you go somewhere, you know how like the food's a little different or like the amenities are a little different, and you're like, by the time you're done, you're like excited to get home. Uruguay for me was like, you know, steak is universal, so that was fine. The food was really great. It really reminded me of like, if you know, Western Europe and LA had a baby, it would be Uruguay. It's like Europe with palm trees and beaches. So I really did like it there. Oh gosh. I have also shot all across Canada. For whatever reason, multiple times I've shot in Moncton, New Brunswick. So shout out to Moncton. It's lovely. Everyone there is super nice. And then it's also really nice shooting in the UK. They have a really great, like they have a huge pool of, you know, directors and talent and all that kind of stuff. So the what's the word I'm looking for? The like market in the UK, or like the industry in the UK, is phenomenal. Like they are so good. So I think those would probably be those are my top three, definitely including Moncton.
The one benefit of shooting in the UK is that you never have to worry about harsh sunlight. You know, you have one big soft
It's all
source.
diffused
Always
light.
overcast. It's perfect.
So you got to be careful with those DPs, especially because they have perfect lighting outside all the time.
All the time. It's just always overcast. It's
You have to
perfect.
do your due diligence with those guys.
Yeah, super great.
Amazing. Well, Maddy, thanks again for joining us on the show, and you know, we'll keep in touch, and we'll touch base again in 10 years and
For
see
the
where
VR.
we're at with the VR world.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna end up having to eat my words, so I'm very sorry. But
See you in the metaverse.
yeah.
See you in the
I don't
metaverse.
know
All
if
right.
it's metaverse, just another
Verse.
world. Another verse. Okay.
That's one. That's another
Appleverse.
verse. We'll meet you
Appleverse.
there.
Appleverse.
Appleverse.
CGC
yeah.
verse. Maybe the CGC verse one day, right?
Yeah.
All right. Signing off on the next verse, guys. Take care.